It was shown in 120 screens. It made collectively less than $10,000. What's up, my freedom-loving friends? Let's take a look at AOC's biggest failure yet. So she has a new climate crisis, scare you to death documentary come out called To the End. And the film has grossed a staggering $9,667. What is there to learn from this? I'll get to that in a second. But first, that means the film, it didn't do as bad as you think. It did worse than you can think. A couple of the relevant details here, just illustrating how bad it is. And I think it's important to look at how bad it is so we can learn the lessons from it. So the movie was released to 120 screens, movie theaters throughout the country. Now you have to understand, movie theaters, they don't just show any crap. They only show movies that they are set to make them money. Because if they take up the space and time slot of a given movie theater with a garbage movie, they're not going to make money. But if they have something come in. So I say that because it takes a lot for a movie theater to be willing to invest one of their screens and showrooms into a movie. Now, how were these 120 screens persuaded into showing AOC's To the End? Well, I'm sure it was based on equity and not merit. It was shown in 120 screens. It made collectively less than $10,000. With all those screens, you'd think per screen it should do a 10 grand. No, 120 screens, it did $9,667. You do the math on that, that means for each movie theater it was shown in, the theater made less than $81. That's hilarious. I don't think it's good at all to laugh at other people's misfortune, but I think it is really good to laugh at people's corruption because it means we see it. It means we're shining the light on it. It means I see your corruption, and guess what? Not only will I not stand for it, I'm gonna laugh about it because he ain't fooling me. And I think that's important to call out here with AOC's deal because I do think she's a pretty corrupt person. For her, I don't think it's money, but she's got her agendas, and I think there's corruption. Welcome to the leftist party. But more significantly, I think her whole message in To the End about climate crisis, I think that is a very corrupt message. I think it is a part of the globalist agenda, one of their tools to get people to hand their power, livelihoods, and sovereignty over them. So I don't know that AOC knows it's a completely corrupt ideology, but she's perpetuating it. So guilty as charged. And therefore, I think it is very important to laugh at AOC's corruption that's coming out through this epic box office flop. Here's how bad it is. I've had some YouTube videos that go very viral, and that video alone will make over $10,000. Doesn't happen all the time, but it's happened. So just compare myself to AOC for a second. Now, I'm no climate expert because I never used to be a bartender like her. So she goes, which by the way, this film, and big disclaimer, I did not watch it. I am not willing to watch it. I watched half the trailer. That's all I could take. There's no way I'm going to subject myself to a movie like this just to do better reporting to you. No. That's like if I was a journalist covering car safety. I'm not going to get into car accidents just to report on it. I will not subject myself to the self-harm of watching the full documentary. I did make it through half the trailer, though. It's a 2-minute long trailer. I could only take half. But what I learned in that trailer, getting to my point, it's a highly produced film. Just to film this and edit it, at a minimum, it would have cost $100,000. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a fair bit more than that. So huge cost, very little return. In fact, no return, only loss. And then me, I'm not a congresswoman. I'm nobody. I'm a peasant, if you ask AOC. Tax the rich. Okay, yeah, whatever. I'm a peasant. So I make a little bitty YouTube video. The production cost is like nothing. I already own the camera. And it's shown on no movie screens. And it is more successful than AOC's box office flop. Are we done laughing at her corruption-based flop? Great, because here's the important lesson I think that is conveyed here. Why did her movie flop? The answer, as I see it, is people are waking up. They don't look at her and people like her as a source of truth. They don't look at her as a reliable source of information. Thus, people voted with their dollars. They didn't, they're like, yeah, you're not a significant figure in our lives. Now, I know she's been elected as a congresswoman, and we're told she's popular in politics. And a lot of that, I mean, we know how much of the media is owned and controlled by the left. So the media gives her certainly a lot of exposure, paints her into the picture of being a star. Well, there's a big difference between a star and a painted picture of a star. When we get past the media's propaganda and using her to usher in, fear-mongering about the climate change and all the things that she, I would say, stands for, but that's giving her too much credit. When we get past that, we see, people are actually voting with their attention, voting with their dollars. They don't care. Whereas if someone with something significant, someone who has something significant to say, they'll go see that person. That's why I like Jordan Peterson. Holy Lord. He's going around, he's doing the speaking tour, he's selling out theaters with thousands and thousands of seats coming to see him live. I would imagine just one section of the auditorium, Jordan Peterson's making more money than AOC's entire nationwide cinema release of her film. Why? Because someone like Jordan Peterson, people are awake, so they can resonate and know, he's speaking something real. He's speaking something truthful. He is speaking something helpful. Whereas with AOC, nothing real there. Doesn't really seem truthful. And not only is it not truthful and not helpful, it's harmful. That's why I think this is a big lesson here. It's a kind of like biofeedback, sharing how the nation on the whole actually thinks of AOC. In other words, tyrants, you're not fooling very many people very often. And with that said, my friend, I think one of my favorite pastimes, and potentially yours, is pissing on the dreams of tyrants with my liberty. And thank you for being here, pissing on this to the end dream of AOC's that turns out to be a wet dream because we've just peed on it in this imaginary metaphor that I'm speaking of. Appreciate you, my friend. I will see you next time. Until then, stay free.